Today, lesson 4.3, we're doing about sampling and surveys of like what a good sample is, what a bad sample is. So there's some ways to tell what a bad sample is. One is called undercoverage. Undercoverage, we'll talk way more about it in detail, but we'll just get our vocab words down, occurs when the same members of a population are, some members, not same, that's the typo, some members of the population are less likely to be chosen or cannot be chosen for the sample. So that should say some, not same. Occurs when some members of a population are less likely to be chosen or cannot be chosen. On our activity today, that was the first example. It's like if they only surveyed people with landlines, then some of the members of the population are less likely to be chosen. That's your young kids and your medium-aged people. A non-response survey occurs when individuals chosen for the sample can't be contacted or refuses to participate. When an individual chosen for the sample can't be contacted or refuses to participate, that's a non-response. That's basically the email that's sent to you and you choose not to reply. You know, that's a non-response. You know, it's like, okay, we asked you a question and you did not. You refused to participate. It's not like you were angry about it. You just didn't participate in the survey. And then a response bias is when there is a consistent pattern of inaccurate responses to a survey question. We'll talk about that guy later. Just 3 basic ways to have like bad samples. And of course, I think you've figured out how to survey well. It has to do with getting a random sample. You know, it's like you've got to just get random samples to where it is much easier to reduce the bias. So let's go through each concept a little bit here. Undercoverage is kind of like these guys right here. I'm just going to skip over all this on question 1. How long before school starts do students get out of bed on average? That's a great question. You know, it's like, all right, if school starts at 7:55, what time do kids get up? But here's who they surveyed. They surveyed a random sample of students who take the bus. Why is that undercoverage? Let's talk about this. Kids who take the bus, and it's about what time they get up. Do they have to get up earlier or later or the same time than people who drive themselves to school? What do you think? Earlier. Isn't that biased, right? It's like they only asked kids who ride the bus. Sometimes the bus leaves at 6:30, you know, in the morning, so it's like they got to get up. So that is totally undercoverage. You can paraphrase this how you want. Students who ride the bus are more likely to get up earlier, you know, than those who don't. Students who ride the bus are more likely to get up early. So that's why that doesn't cover the whole student body well, because they only asked kids who get up early, basically, you know. It's like, hey, that's not representing us. So what do you think that would do to the response, like, of this? If they only asked kids who get up early, would that likely be a greater than or less than the average for all students at the school? What time you get up, like minutes before school, say an hour before school, 30 minutes before school, 10 minutes before school, they only ask people to get up. Would that make that higher or lower? That would be higher, dude. The amount of time they get up would be greater than those if they asked a random sample of students. Cool? All right. So that's greater than. A vet wonders what proportion of dogs in her county are malnourished. Do you know what malnourished means? Tyler, can you put that? Malnourished means they don't feed them properly. You know, it's like, okay, poor little dog didn't get fed, not getting water kind of stuff. So a vet wants to know what proportion of dogs in her county are malnourished. Here's who the vet examines. Records of a random sample of 100 dogs enrolled at her practice. Enrolled her practice. So these are dogs that come to her vet, right? The people bring the dogs to their vet. 2% of them are malnourished. Why is that bad? Even though she did a random sample, who did she choose from? All dogs that go to her vet. What do you think about people who take their dogs to the vet? Do they treat their dogs well or do they not treat their dogs well? Yeah, don't they usually like feed their dog and take care of their dog? Because the reason why they're taking them to the vet is because something's wrong, and that's a lot of money, right? You know, so they're putting time. So owners who take their dog to the vet are less likely to malnourish their dog. Owners who take their dog to the vet are less likely to malnourish their dog. Or you can paraphrase that, these dogs were taken care of because they go to the vets. So what do you think? This is the percent that were malnourished. Do you think that's less than or greater than the average if they just did like random animals in this county or thing like that? Only 2% of the dogs were malnourished because they surveyed kids or dogs that went to the vet. Do you think that's greater than or less than? Sorry, here's that raptor training, guys. That's a big less than, right? If you only ask people that take care of their dogs, that's going to make the survey results less than people that would be randomly surveyed. So another one of those. Oh, my bad. Those were under coverage. Non-response is people who don't participate in the survey. So there's a bunch of stuff about that. 300 people participated in a free 12-week weight loss course at a community health clinic. After 1 year, administrators emailed each of the 300 participants to see how much they weigh. So they emailed them, and they want to know how much do you weigh. You were in the program, but they want to see how much weight you lost. They emailed 300 people. 56 responded. The average weight loss was like 14 pounds almost, Why is that going to lead to bias? Who do you think is most likely to respond to a survey about how much weight you lost? The people who lost weight, right? It's like, all right, I'll report. But if you didn't lose weight or you gained weight, it's like, I'm not going to answer that, So that's biased because the people who didn't lose weight are less likely to respond due to embarrassments, possible embarrassments. You can paraphrase it how you want, because it's all typed out for you on the homework program, but it's probably embarrassing for people to answer the survey and say, yeah, I lost no weight, or I gained 3 pounds, or whatever. They're just like, I'm not even going to answer. That's a non-response. So what do you think? Is the mean amount of weight loss greater than or less than when these people that only lost a lot of weight answered? That's a big fat greater than, dude. It's like, let's see what this says. I think they messaged me again. Okay, so greater than. And then this is like your classic, right? Wait 5 years after you graduate and see how you feel about this question. A recent alumni reunion for a large university, I know it's university, but we'll say maybe like a high school, had a survey about your annual income. How much money you're making, dude? To all the alums. They emailed everybody attending the reunion. Look how many people responded. 42, right? And they said, hey, how much money do you make? The average annual income was $132 grand. Why would non-response, people who didn't respond, lead to a bias? What I like to do is go, who the heck would respond to that survey? Said, hey, how much money do you make? Who responds? The people who make good money, right? It's like, yep, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, brag, 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 brag. So it's people with high-paying jobs replied. That's how you could just, kind of put the gist of that. It's possible that only those with high-paying jobs replied. Those with low-paying jobs did not respond due to possible embarrassment. Like I said, just paraphrase it that only high-paying jobs were likely to reply. It doesn't mean some low-paying job people didn't reply, but it's more common that people with the high jobs would reply. So would you believe that that would make the average greater than? Because if you're having high people reply, it's going to be a big average. So, cool. Those are non-response. In this big old box right here, the best way to reduce the effect of non-response is to follow up with people who didn't respond. So send them another survey, maybe make a phone call, send them a letter. If you follow up to try to get people who didn't respond to respond, that could help. Cool. But what this says here is what we talked about last week was a voluntary response. Non-response is not voluntary response, because non-response, they weren't choosing to respond. They were just sent an email or anything, and they did not respond. A voluntary response was people who chose to be in it. It's like, yeah, How many of y'all just like think it would be a good idea to not have kids if you could do it over? Those people volunteered to respond to that. This is like you were sent a survey and you chose not to respond. And then finally, the response bias. This is when there's a pattern of inaccurate responses. So these are pretty awesome. Is cheerleading a sport is the question, right? That's a valid question, but it depends on who's asking. When Haley surveyed students at school, 80% of those people that she asked said yes, but she was wearing her cheerleading uniform, right, when she did that survey. Then she did it another day in regular clothes, and only 28% said yes. Why were they more likely to say yes when she was wearing the cheerleading outfit? Looks better. I like it. Could be that she looks better, but didn't want to hurt her feelings. Do they know she's a cheerleader when she's wearing a cheerleading outfit? Yes or no? Yeah, because someone who's not a cheerleader could ask that question also, and you know, it's just like you get a more honest response, right? So I got one for you that I'll share later, a personal one that I did, because I knew we were going to have this lesson, and I did one at the beginning of the school year, so I'll share that with you later. So the students likely felt pressure from Haley to say yes when she was in her cheer uniform to not hurt her feelings, you know, so. And then let's do like 2 more, baby. What % of police officers broke the speed limit more than 3 times last week on their drive to work? A police officer surveys a random sample of 100 attendees at a police officers convention and finds that only 7% of the respondents said yes. So they asked cops, did you speed to work 3 or more times last week? And only 7% of them said yes. How could a response bias affect this? They could lie, right? You know, what if they did it every day? Why would they lie? Because they like are supposed to enforce the law, right? And aren't they breaking the law? So they don't want to get in trouble in that situation. So it's very likely that some of them lied, you know, so they didn't get like embarrassed or a fear of losing their job, you know, kind of stuff. So however you want to paraphrase that. And the last one, the classic. Do you wash your hands after you use the restroom? Right? It's a great question. Depends on how you collect the data. First, they did a telephone survey of 1,000 people. 96% said yes, they did. Right? Then they did an observational study of over 6,000 people in a public restroom, and only 85% observed washed their hands. They didn't ask them, they just watched them to see if they washed their hands or not. Why are those results so different? Why would so many of the people in orange say yes? When there's like, hey, do you wash your hands after you go to the bathroom? Lying, very easy to do. It's like, ew, it's gross. If you say, no, I don't, it's like, people think weird of you. Why did only 85% of them do it this time? Because they weren't asked, they were just observed. Here's a side note, though. How did they observe it? They had a spy in the bathroom, basically, like faking brushing their teeth or putting on makeup. So, like, there was somebody else in the bathroom at the time. So would you believe that how low would it be if you were just by yourself in the bathroom, you went to the bathroom, and, like, nobody watched you wash your hands or not wash your hands? Don't you think that would be a lower percent of people who said that they washed their hands? So fascinating stuff. And then I will end with the old Calvin and Hobbes. Oh, it is possible that people asked did not tell the truth due to fear of embarrassment. I think you get that gist, you know. So they lied to not be embarrassed. But here's my classic old Calvin and Hobbes back when comic strips were kind of cool. Check it out. Calvin's like a little pain in the butt for most teachers and stuff like that. He's filling out a survey for Chewing Magazine. They asked how much money he spends on gum each week, so he wrote $500 for his age. He put 43. When they asked what his favorite color is, he wrote garlic/curry. He loves messing with data. It's like, how many surveys have you taken where it's like you really just didn't tell the truth? No offense, you know, but it's just like, yep, I'm just messing with you, you know, kind of stuff. So it's amazing how hard the data is.